Hello, beautiful one, and welcome to another episode of Taking Time to Heal. So, today I wanted us to spend a little bit of time thinking about this idea of core self, and we're also going to be doing a little practice at the end. So, I would invite you now to get your sacred space ready, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe light a candle, maybe sage your room, maybe it's just about you giving yourself permission to lay on the bed with your eyes closed and just allow the information to go in, whatever that looks like for you today. I hope you make it special, and I hope you gift this time to you, because we've got quite an important topic to think about, to discuss, to contemplate. And whatever I'm sharing, I always invite you to spend a little time afterwards journaling on it, thinking about, and I say journaling, if that's not your go-to, perhaps meditating, however you contemplate best. But really starting to think about, how does this apply to me? How does this show up for me? How is this relevant to me? Because the truth is, most things I will talk about will be relevant to all of us as human beings. So today, last week I mentioned this idea of core self. This part of us that is unchanging, this part of us that is innately you. And I wanted to go into that a bit deeper today, because when we can understand this concept, and not just understand it cognitively, right? But really feel it, really allow it to land within us, really allow ourselves to embody this as truth, then what you will find is your resilience will automatically soar. Not from a place of trying, not from a place of, I want to be stronger, not from a place of, this desire to cultivate inner power or strength. Nothing wrong with any of those things. But when this information really lands, it is so much easier to view your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances as these separate entities. And that gives us a bit of breathing room, right? It allows us to not take things so personally. It allows us to not put expectations on ourselves that might be unachievable. It allows us to just roll with the waves, right? Sometimes life will throw a few waves or punches, it may feel like. And this concept allows you to, the thing that's dropping through for me is this thing I saw on Instagram, I think it was, or one of those social media sites the other day, where it's like, and there's many different analogies around this, like, our job here is not to try and calm the ocean. Our job here is not to minimize the waves. It's learning how to surf, right? It's learning how to roll with the punches. It's learning how to dance in the rain, to appreciate what we already have. And see these things that we're experiencing as just that, experiences, things that we can learn from, things that we can discover about. And this was something that dropped through in my own personal shamanic journey this morning. I had this message of, I'm trying to think of the exact words that I was given, but it was along the lines of, your life is this social experiment that you are giving yourself. And if you don't like the experience that you are experiencing, you get to make different choices. You get to choose different experiences. You get to see where that goes if you can step into that from a sense of curiosity. And this kind of ties into what we're talking about today. This idea of, fundamentally, there is this core part of us that is always whole, right? And how do we know it's there? Well, this is talked about in many different traditions, many different paths, whether we're looking at it from a psychology point of view or whether we're looking at it from, we can use Buddhism again in this example. We can also use a lot of the Native American, Northern American shamanic teachings. And actually, as I'm saying that, I'm thinking Middle American and South America, like shamanic teachings as well, really have this idea at the heart, as well as the yogic philosophy and teachings from the Vedas. But it's this idea that if we can witness it, if we can see it unfolding. So if you think about a thought, we can watch it, right? If you've ever tried meditation, you probably need to have been meditating for a little bit to understand this concept, but you start to see that the thoughts, they're not you. They come, they go. Some of them make sense, some of them don't. I remember when I first started meditating, I used to keep a meditation journal. And if you don't have one and you do meditate, especially at the beginning stages, I highly recommend this. One, because you start to realize how ridiculous so many of your thoughts are. And when you can start to see that, then you can start to understand that you don't have to believe them. They're not truth. They often come from sources external to us, things that people have told us. Someone may have made an offhand comment at one point, and we've taken that on as truth, and it keeps repeating as a little thought in your head. And sometimes, like say, those thoughts are just ridiculous. I remember one of my meditation teachers had shown me her own meditation journal, and it had this little picture in of ants in a bed. And she was like, I don't know why I thought about it, but I noted it down. And it's that reminder, right, that our brain is not often this like highly intelligent, calculating machine as often we're led to believe it is. But it's almost this little toddler or chimp, like the chimp paradox explains this really well. This little chimp that runs around and it does its own thing, and it's drawing from all sorts of sources. And when you can start to see those thoughts as just a little chimp running his own show, they stop having such a hold on you. And this also goes for our emotions, right? Now, I'm the sort of person that I feel quite deeply, is what I want to say. I feel, and this is an assumption I'm making, but based on, people I've met in my life and talking to them, many people had a very different relationship to emotions than I did. For me, emotions felt very overwhelming. They felt like they would take me over. They would feel consuming is the word I want to use. Like it would literally take up all the space in my body. And again, meditation, I have to admit, was probably one of the real turning points for me around this, when I could just witness them. And you would think that wouldn't make an enormous difference, to just be able to witness your emotions. But it's that space it creates when you step into the place of the witnesser, and you can see your emotions as just these kind of energetic shifts that happen in your body, sometimes for good reason, often not. Again, a bit like the monkey mind, this emotional body can be running from things that happened 20 years ago that are no longer relevant, running from we might be triggered into feeling a particular way because even subconsciously, we may not even know this consciously, an event might take us back to when we were 4 or 5 and we don't even remember that event. So the more we can cultivate this sense of space between us and our emotions and our emotional body, and just witness them for what they are, a feeling, a sensation, when you take out the need to justify them, when you take out the need to either make them right or wrong or good or bad, when you can just allow them to be sensation in the body, that actually creates so much more stability within you. You're less likely to be led around by them. You are the person that is in control, in your power. Now, this kind of leads me on to wanting to talk to you about the real kind of work here. And it is this sense of cultivating, it is this act of cultivating awareness. Awareness, not from a point of view of wanting to analyze, not from a point of view of wanting to fix, but just cultivating that curiosity within you. I'm thinking that thing again. There's that emotion again. Not from a place of wanting to shove it away. We're not trying to cling on to it. We're not trying to get involved in it in any way, but from a place of just knowing, that thing is there. And then once we've really cultivated this sense of curiosity within us, then we can go into more of the analytics. But if I'm honest, this has got to be the first step. This has got to be the first step in healing, because this is the journey from my perspective. So if we go back to the Native American traditions, I think this really explains a beautiful concept that often gets misunderstood in the West. In the West, in spiritual circles, you will hear the word light being passed around. So I know it was one of the things that really, I'll be honest, I find it quite triggering when people say love and light. I'm a Reiki master, so I am gonna talk about this and why. The main reason I find it, I think, frustrating, I think that's what it brings up for me, is there's this perception that light that we talk about from a spiritual perspective is about being good. Now, I don't believe that to be true. And I also believe that's a really dangerous concept for us to believe, because when we associate our spiritual practice as we're evolving into these light beings that are all good, angelic is the word I want to use, then actually what that tends to lead to is spiritual bypassing. I'm really aware I'm throwing a lot of concepts into this one, but please know in future episodes I will break down some of these concepts that we touch upon, so that we can really get the juice out of them in later episodes. But for now, I invite you to consider that actually perhaps the light that is being referred to in many spiritual practices, and this is articulated very well in, like I say, the Native American shamanic traditions, they talk about light being this light of awareness, and that our job here, our purpose here, is to cultivate more light within. But this isn't about light as in angelic beings becoming these light beings, becoming these, really good people. It's about bringing that light internally, bringing our awareness internally, shining that light onto the bits within us that we don't see because they're in the shadow. Carl Jung talks about this a lot in terms of shadow work. This is often the work we do in psychology, in many kind of talking therapies. What we're basically doing is we're turning that light inside, and we're shining light into those parts of us, those behaviors, those thoughts, those emotions, and allowing ourselves to see them for what they are. And when we can see, when we can turn that light inwards, we have far more ability to change, to choose something else, to choose a different way of being. Not from the point of view of aspiring to be better, but from the point of view of aspiring to live better, to enjoy and to learn and to experience and to really get the most from this journey that we call life. So what I wanted to invite you to do today is, one, consider this concept within your own life. How much awareness do you have currently of the things that are running around your brain on a daily basis? Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the to-dos, the things, we've all got to do mundane things, right, in our life. We've all got washing and chores, and we've all got things that we need to do. But I'm talking about things like the language we're using towards ourselves, the way. So when I feel like I need to give more context on that too, so let me do that. So the language we use towards ourselves is super important. And often it's not until we really start directing that awareness inside that we start to see just how mean we can be. How many times have you sat in meditation and thought, oh my gosh, I would never say that to someone else. I'd be horrified at the thought of saying that to someone else. Yet we allow our brain to continue to say these not very nice things to us. often this is a work in progress, right? That we have to catch ourselves in those moments. And I had a moment, I think it was last week, where I dropped something, and the first thing I said, and I said it out loud, was, "Oh, Holly, you idiot." And then I I caught myself and went, "Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. Don't say that to yourself. That's not very nice." And, often we're not even aware that we are repeating these horrible things to ourselves on a daily basis, and then wondering why we don't feel good about ourselves, wondering why we've got poor self-confidence, wondering why we don't feel worthy, why we don't feel enough. So today, what I wanted to do is to guide you through just a really simple practice that is, I want to say easy, but easy is probably the wrong word. It is simple. I'm going to stick with that. It is simple. But the truth is, if you haven't done any kind of mindfulness, any kind of mindfulness meditations, or just practicing mindfulness of thought or emotion, then this can feel really scary. I remember when I first sat in a meditation class, and I'd done meditations at home, and I'd done guided meditations, but I'd also done normal meditations. When I say normal meditations, I mean self-led meditations at home. But I remember sitting in that meditation class and becoming aware of just how much anxiety was living within me. And up until that point, I had not seen it. I had really not seen it at all. I'm the sort of person that is very kind of goal orientated. There's always things I'm working on. There's always things I'm trying to achieve or moving towards. And because of that, it kind of was that intensity of my mind was blocking out the emotions I didn't want to see. Because in my view at that time, those emotions were unproductive. I don't have time to feel that now. I don't have time to look at that now. I've got things I need to do. And so what I would do is just put a lid on it. And that lid, after a while, it can't hold it all in, right? And then before I knew it, I'm unconsciously looking for things to take away the discomfort. So I might overeat, that glass of wine that turns into two, that maybe turns into the bottle, or whatever that thing is for you. We all have our go-to vices, right? But it wasn't until I really sat in that meditation experience that I started to see, oh my gosh, I'm really anxious. I spend a lot of time being scared. I spend a lot of time in fear. And the point I want to kind of acknowledge as well is, if, like me, you are a suppressor and you like to just, your go-to is to put a lid on it, pretend it's not there, shove it over that way, then actually as you first start getting into things like mindfulness practices, meditation, it can feel a little bit intense. It can feel uncomfortable. We can start making excuses as to why we can't do it, right? So we might start saying things like, oh, I can't do it because my mind won't shut up, right? Meditation isn't about the mind shutting up. That's not what it's about. It's about bringing that light of awareness into the mind into the body, into the emotional body, into what's going on for us. And I should say, this is mindfulness meditation as opposed to some of the other forms of meditation. But when we do that, we then have to sit with it. And if we're not used to doing that, that's a new skill we've got to develop, right? It doesn't come naturally. This is the fire teachings of the Native American shamanic traditions, probably more on the Cherokee side, where it's this idea of we have to cultivate this light of awareness within us so that we can see the truth. We can see our truth. We can see our authentic self outside of the noise, and we can start making better choices. And those better choices might be what thoughts you choose to believe, what emotions, how emotions affect you, how you deal with a situation or a problem or a challenge, how you view that thing in relation to yourself. So this is such a fundamental skill that we need to practice that I thought we would do it together in this episode. So I invite you to get comfy, get cozy, get a little nest ready, do whatever you need to do to really allow yourself to settle into this moment. Now, for those of you that are worried about this because you feel like you can't meditate, first of all, everyone can meditate, right? Everyone. It might mean that, for some of us, it might be more of a challenging journey, but it is still super possible. And you are very capable. I'm sure you have done many things in your lifetime that are far harder than this. So I invite you to trust me. And that's a big ask, I'm aware, but I invite you to trust me. And actually, it's not even me. I invite you to trust this wisdom that has been across the globe for thousands of years, right? Meditation, we were talking about meditation 5,000 years ago. And I suspect a hell of a lot longer than that. But that's like the earliest we can really pin it back to. So I invite you to get comfy, get cozy. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips here if you haven't meditated before. I think initially, comfort is one of the most important things, right? So allow yourself to get comfortable. Now that may involve laying down, but this is the other point that could be super useful to know. If you can try and keep the spine straight, and preferably in a sat up position, so you can have a backrest, right? Or you can just sit up straight. See, my chair doesn't allow me to sit up straight. It tilts me back. So you can find your kind of sweet spot by just gently allowing your body to rock back and forth, side to side, and then back and forth. Closing your eyes and just allowing yourself to find that kind of middle point where it feels balanced in terms of both left and right, forward and back. And if we can keep that spine fairly straight, because what we know is when that spine is erect, in a erect position, that energy can flow. We have greater access to if we look at this from a scientific point of view, that blood flow is getting in and around the brain. We're more able to focus. And you can feel it, right? If you sit up straight, there's this internal power that kind of gets activated, this sense of I'm here to do something. And we want as much of that ability to focus as possible, because it is all too easy to fall asleep, right? And laying down, that often happens. And that's very important if we're trying to balance the nervous system, and we'll talk about that in another episode. But for now, we want to be able to focus, and that is so much easier when our posture is aligned to that. And I invite you initially to just gently close your eyes and bring your awareness to this breath in the belly. And you might be thinking, my belly doesn't breathe. But you will start to notice, not consciously trying to breathe in super deep or super low in the body, but if you allow yourself to breathe normally and allow that belly to soften, we're not holding in here. Often we're taught to pull in the belly, but no, we want that to be soft. And you start to notice you can feel that contraction and expansion from the breath all the way down in the belly. And if you can't feel it in the belly, just pick the lowest point that you can feel, that gentle rise and fall. Now, in order to come into this state of the witnesser, the person that can observe without getting involved, we need to allow our nervous system to relax. So maybe noticing if there's anywhere in the body where you're holding tension right now. Maybe softening across the brow, around the eyes. Letting go of any tightness in the chest. You may even wish to roll those shoulders back, allowing a little bit more space in this top section of the body. Softening in the hips. And this is all we're going to do for the moment, is just watch this breath in the belly. And you may find you become distracted, and that distraction might be a pain or an itch. It might be a thought or an emotion. It might be a noise outside. But that's perfectly normal. And as soon as we realize we've become distracted, we just gently return the attention back to the breath. Now, don't worry if this feels particularly challenging for you today. The truth is, some days this is easier than others. But for those of us with a meditation practice, we meditate on all of the days. And the reason being, if we can sit in meditation on the days we don't want to, because the mind is loud, the emotions feel big, if we can just sit with that on those days, then we begin to be able to do this in our life as well. We become less reactive. We're less likely to take things personally. Because all you need to pay attention to is just that gentle rise and fall. Now, this is a great meditation practice for just cultivating our ability to focus. And this ability to focus is a skill that we can then use in our day-to-day life as well, to operate without distraction, to focus on the things that matter, and to not be derailed by the things that don't. Nothing here but you and the breath. And we're going to see if we can expand our focus now to include the whole of our experience in this moment. So noticing what comes into your awareness. Maybe a thought, maybe a sensation in the body, and whatever it is, seeing if you can just witness that without being pulled into it. You don't have to start a conversation with the thought. You don't have to justify the sensation in the body. You can allow it to just be. Allow yourself to watch it without getting involved. And you might start to notice a string of events, a sound that then results in an internal thought or feeling. A thought wanting to jump in to justify the feeling. And we just watch it all. No need to get involved. And if at any point you realize you have got involved, know that's perfectly okay. And just bringing yourself back to that part of you that just watches. What a relief to not have to fix. And the more we can cultivate this open awareness, the more we start to see the subtle. We start to see where the patterns start. We start to see how we react instead of respond. We start to see the meanings we assign to things, the judgments we make. And we can just watch from a state of curiosity, allowing ourselves to just remain open and aware. And shifting your awareness now to the feeling of contact between you and the chair or the floor or the bed. allowing yourself to notice the feeling of gravity on your body, keeping you connected to Earth. And maybe taking in a nice deep breath before gently opening your eyes and coming back into the room. Okay. How was that? I would love to know. If you haven't meditated before, I just want to say congratulations, because now you have. And whether you choose to keep this as a practice ongoing, or just try and bring that mindfulness into your everyday life, I can promise you now, it is likely to have a transformational impact on the way you start talking to yourself, on the things that you believe, on the things that upset you and don't upset you, on the things that you think you are. Something so simple as just paying attention without getting involved can have this amazing ability to put us back into our sense of power, back into that part of us that actually has the ability to deal with everything that's going on, right? I'm sure in your life you have experienced many ups, many downs, yet whenever we're in a down, often we tend to feel, or we can feel like when it feels particularly big, I'm not going to get out of this one. Yet we know better, right? We know better. So lovelies, I would love to hear those of you that try to start implementing this a bit more in your life, maybe establishing a meditation practice, maybe introducing a bit more mindfulness to thoughts, to emotions, to what's going on inside, from a sense of curiosity and not getting too involved initially. I would love to hear what you experience. I would love to hear what your aha moments are. I would love to hear what this uncovers for you. So feel free to reach out. And what I would say is, if you're feeling like, I really want to do this work, but I don't think I want to do this alone, then make sure to check out the Medicine Woman Collective. It's my membership space where we do collective practices together, and we have the support of each other on this journey of healing. And if I'm honest, I'm really proud of that space. It just attracts the most beautiful humans, and together it is such a lovely group. And I feel like I don't have the words to explain it. I feel like it needs to be experienced. So that's why you have a 14-day free trial for those of you that are interested. And if it's not for you, that is absolutely fine, right? You can just cancel. No need to tell me why, no need to justify it. If it's not for you at that time, perfect. And you can just leave. It's okay, don't worry. I know we often feel really funny about that for some reason. But you are very welcome to join us in there. And I cannot tell you how much community makes a difference to this journey, and to allowing yourself to be seen and supported by others. I know for some of you that might feel like a big leap, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you can edge outside your comfort zone, I don't think you'll regret it. I could be wrong. All right, lovelies. I'm going to love you and leave you. I hope you have found this episode useful. Next week, we've got some other amazing things that I'm going to be talking to you about that are going to be super helpful for those of you that are taking the time to heal. I will see you soon. Take care.